It is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife. And with that truly iconic opening line, we're diving into Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice, but we're going deeper than just the surface story today. This was first published, 1813?
That's right, over 200 years ago.
Yeah.
Still feels incredibly fresh, though.
Exactly. So our mission here is to go beyond the romance and really dig into why it's still so captivating. We want to pull out the key insights, the sharp social commentary, drawing from some great literary analysis.
It's fascinating, isn't it? That timeless appeal. Because it really is more than just a love story. It's this incredible exploration of, well, love, obviously, but also class, reputation, and how characters grow and change.
Okay, so let's set the scene quickly. We're in rural England, early 19th century, and the story follows Elizabeth Bennet. She's one of 5 sisters, very spirited. And then these wealthy newcomers arrive, including the rather aloof Mr. Darcy. And right away, there's this tension, right? Built on misunderstandings and, well, all those social rules.
Absolutely. And their whole journey, it's not straightforward at all. It's really about them having to confront their own issues, her prejudice against him, his pride. They have to sort of shed those initial biases before they can actually see each other clearly and find, that deep love and respect. That's the queer conflict, really.
And you need unforgettable characters for that kind of journey. Austen delivers, doesn't she?
Oh, completely.
Elizabeth Bennet, first off. She's just brilliant, so sharp, independent, witty, and she really pushes back against expectations, valuing love over just marrying rich.
Yeah, she does.
But she's flawed too, which makes her relatable. Her quick judgment, born from that intelligence, sometimes gets her into trouble. Compellingly flawed, I would say.
Definitely. And then there's Mr. Darcy, Fitzwilliam Darcy. He starts off seeming so cold, arrogant even. He doesn't make a great first impression, especially on Elizabeth.
Not at all.
But then, as the story unfolds, you see this other side. He's actually kind, incredibly generous, and deeply principled. His character arc is it's huge. Watching him humble himself is one of the great examples of Austen's skill with character development.
And the supporting cast is just as crucial. You've got Mr. and Mrs. Bennet.
Who won a pair.
Right. Mr. Bennet is so sarcastic and detached, while Mrs. Bennet is just obsessed with marrying off the girls.
It shows that imbalance, doesn't it? Intellect versus, well, sheer nerves.
Yeah.
And the consequences of, let's say, less than ideal parenting.
Then you have Jane Bennet and Mr. Bingley. They're sort of the sweet, uncomplicated, ideal romantic pair.
A nice contrast, yeah. Gentle, kind. Their path seems much smoother, initially at least.
It really highlights the complexity between Elizabeth and Darcy. And we can't forget George Wickham. Charming officer.
Charming but deceitful. He's absolutely vital, though. His actions are what really help reveal Darcy's hidden integrity. And he's a perfect warning about, not trusting first impressions.
So true.
And it makes you think, how do all these characters, through their interactions and their own paths, really illuminate the bigger societal issues Austen is poking at?
Okay, let's dive into those themes, because this is where it gets really interesting, I think.
Agreed.
The title itself says it all, right? Pride and Prejudice. Those are the big initial barriers. Elizabeth's prejudice against Darcy, based on first impressions and gossip.
Yep. And Darcy's pride, his consciousness of his social standing, maybe bordering on arrogance at the start, they both have to overcome those internal flaws.
And that connects directly to social class and marriage, which you mentioned.
Absolutely. Georgian England had this incredibly rigid class system. Marriage often was much more about consolidating wealth or status than about love. It was transactional.
A tough reality for women especially.
Definitely. Austen critiques this, subtly but powerfully. Through Elizabeth's insistence on marrying for love and respect, she wants more than just security. But you also see the alternative through Charlotte Lucas, who makes a very pragmatic choice, marrying for security rather than affection. It's a stark contrast.
It makes you question those pressures.
And then there's reputation, how critical that was. Characters like Lydia running off with Wickham. It shows how easily a reputation, especially a woman's, could be destroyed. One misstep, and that's it.
A huge scandal.
Exactly. And contrasted with that, you have Darcy's actions. He steps in to fix the mess, quietly behind the scenes. It underscores that idea that true virtue isn't about appearances, it's about your actions, your actual character.
And speaking of character, let's talk about female independence. Elizabeth Bennet feels like one of literature's first real feminist figures, doesn't she?
I think so, yeah, for her time, absolutely.
She refuses to be steamrolled by social norms or by powerful people like Lady Catherine de Bourgh. That confrontation is amazing.
It really is.
She speaks her mind, she challenges things, and ultimately, she insists on choosing her own partner on her own terms. That was pretty radical back then.
Incredibly so.
To really get the depth here, we should probably touch on the historical context a bit more. The Regency-era.
Right. Roughly 1811 to 1820.
It looks elegant in adaptations, all balls and beautiful dresses, but it was a time of really strict social hierarchy.
And very limited rights for women. Plus, economic instability lingering from the Napoleonic Wars. It wasn't all smooth sailing.
And that specific point about inheritance is key, isn't it?
Hugely important. If there were no sons, the daughters often couldn't inherit the family estate. Think of the Bennet situation. It put immense pressure on women to marry, and marry well, because that was often their only path to financial security. They were dependent.
Austen knew this world inside out.
She certainly did. And she critiques these limitations, often through humor and irony, but the critique is sharp. It's also worth remembering that Austen herself never married. She experienced these limitations firsthand, which probably gave her writing that extra layer of insight and maybe quiet defiance.
Let's shift gears a bit and talk about Austen's craft, how she tells the story.
Yes. Her style is just masterful.
She uses that third-person voice, but it feels so close to Elizabeth's perspective much of the time, almost like an inside view.
Omniscient, yes, but often filtered through Elizabeth's consciousness and laced with irony, so much irony.
It allows for both humor and that sharp social commentary, often in the same sentence.
Exactly. And the dialogue.
Oh, the dialogue is everything. It drives the whole plot forward, doesn't it? Conversations aren't just filler, they're where the action happens.
Think about that first disastrous proposal scene between Elizabeth and Darcy.
Intense.
So much is revealed to what they say and what they don't say. The subtext is incredible. It's rightly considered one of the great scenes in English literature.
Austen's also brilliant with symbolism, isn't she?
Very much so. Pemberley, Darcy's estate, is a major one.
Right. It's not just a big house.
No. When Elizabeth first sees it, it starts to change her perception of Darcy. It's described as beautiful, yes, but also well-ordered, natural, reflecting good taste, and implicitly the good character of its owner. It symbolizes his inner worth, hidden beneath that proud exterior.
And letters, too. Letters are huge in this book.
Crucial. They function as tools for revelation. Darcy's long letter to Elizabeth after the first proposal. That's a turning point. It forces her to reevaluate everything she thought she knew about him and Wickham. It clears up massive misunderstandings.
Austen also uses foil characters really effectively.
Like pairing Jane and Elizabeth, the gentle sister and the spirited sister. It highlights their different approaches to life and love.
Or contrasting Elizabeth's choice with Charlotte's pragmatic marriage, or even Lydia's reckless one.
Exactly. These contrasts throw the central character's choices and values into sharper relief. All these techniques together, the narrative voice, the dialogue, the symbolism, the foils, they create this incredible psychological depth. That's why it still feels so real and engaging.
And central to that engagement is the character development, the way they evolve.
That's perhaps the most brilliant part.
Elizabeth's journey is fascinating. She has to learn to look beyond her first impressions, to question her own judgment. Realizing that charm, like Wickham's, can be deceptive, and that pride isn't always the same as arrogance. It's a process of self-awareness.
It really is. And Darcy undergoes an equally profound transformation. He has to humble himself significantly. That proud gentleman learns to recognize his own arrogance and its effect on others.
And he changes. He becomes willing to act against his own social conditioning, even risk ridicule for Elizabeth.
Like stepping in to sort out the Lydia and Wickham situation. That's a huge step for him.
It shows a real shift in his values.
And what makes their growth so powerful is that it feels earned. It's realistic, not sudden or unbelievable. You see the steps along the way. It's just deeply satisfying. Yeah. A hallmark of Austen's genius, as you said earlier.
Which brings us to the legacy. I mean, the impact of this book is just staggering.
It really is.
Never out of print since 1813. Think about that.
Remarkable endurance.
And the adaptations. Countless versions for film, TV, the stage.
And modern retellings, too.
Yeah.
Some straightforward, some less so.
Right, like Bridget Jones's Diary, which is a direct homage. And then you have things like Pride and Prejudice and Zombies.
Yes. A testament to its cultural penetration, I suppose.
But thinking about the more direct adaptations, the 1995 BBC miniseries with Colin Firth and Jennifer L. is often held up as the gold standard, isn't it? Very faithful.
Widely beloved, yes.
Yeah.
Many consider it definitive, though the 2005 film with Keira Knightley and Matthew McFadden has its strong supporters to perhaps a bit more cinematic and overtly romantic in feel.
Different takes, but both capture something essential.
And beyond popular culture, its relevance continues in academia. Scholars are still analyzing it through feminist theory, post-colonial theory, sociological lenses. It just keeps offering new layers of meaning,
Yeah.
which tells you that those core themes, love, class, identity, prejudice, personal growth, they're timeless. They still speak to us.
So when you boil it all down, Pride and Prejudice is so much more than just a charming romance.
Absolutely.
It's this sharp critique of society, it's a deep dive into human flaws and virtues, and it's really a celebration of gaining self-awareness and the power of personal change.
And I think what makes the central relationship between Elizabeth and Darcy so enduring is that it isn't love at first sight. It's not easy. It starts with misunderstanding. It requires real reflection and painful honesty from both sides. And it's built on that transformation. That journey is what makes it so resonant and ultimately so powerful.
Which leaves us with something to think about, perhaps. How might our own sort of modern social biases or snap judgments, the things we barely notice maybe, how might they be shaping our perceptions of people? Much like the characters in Regency England were influenced by theirs. Could our own pride or prejudice be preventing us from seeing someone's true character, their real worth?